Hi, I'm Dr. Nicolai Lennox, and I want to talk about one of my favorite topics in the world. It's called sugar. Now, there's nobody you know who you don't say the word sugar and they don't give you that little smile. You're like, ah. Because it's always associated with reward and sweetness and all that kind of things. But the part we usually don't think about is what the physiological impact is of sugar on your actual physiology and on your moods as well. Now, I have to confess, most of this stuff I had to learn on me. I didn't get to learn it out of a book. I got to learn it by having to figure out why I had the reactions I had and why my perceptions changed. And so I'm telling you stuff I know it in my heart, I know it in my body, and I'm just like you. I have to learn this stuff. So, sugar. Blood sugar is an interesting thing. Every single cell needs sugar. The glucose molecule, right? So the project is to get the glucose molecule from your food into your bloodstream, into your cell, and that's just the beginning of it. So you break down your food and your blood sugar should rise slowly. And as your blood sugar rises slowly, there should secrete a hormone from your pancreas called insulin. We're all really familiar with the word insulin. And what insulin does is this. Since the glucose molecule is too big to get into your cell, the insulin grabs glucose by the hand, opens the cell door, shoves it in, and closes the door. It's just that simple. And that's the job of insulin. As a result of that, your blood sugar goes down and your cell sugar goes up. All right, so we always talk about blood sugar because measuring cell sugar is very difficult to do. So we just default to measuring blood sugar. All right, so ideally, if your digestion works right and you're eating a rational diet, you have this sort of curve. Your blood sugar goes up, it goes down, you get an appetite, you feed, your blood sugar goes up, you go down, you go to sleep, and you don't eat, your adrenal glands secrete hormones that mobilize your stored fats and your stored proteins, and they just secrete a little bit of sugar from that in your liver. All right, perfect. However, most of us are born with really exhausted adrenals, and that's a whole nother lecture we'll talk about, but just accept it for now that most of us are born with exhausted adrenals. And the adrenal glands are our stress hormone glands. And one of the jobs the adrenal gland has is to recognize when your blood sugar is coming down, to notice that and secrete hormones that bring your blood sugar back up again. So let me just go back then to this moment at which insulin moves the blood sugar into the cell. The reason that's important is that the glucose molecule in your cell is where your body gets energy from. It secretes enzymes that fracture that molecule. And as a result of that, electrons are released, or electricity is released, if you like. That kind of energy. And then there's a cell in your body, a molecule in your body, that goes and grabs that electricity and stores it like it stores a battery. And that battery goes to another part of your cell, and then your body uses that energy to fuse atoms together to make a molecule, like hair, or like an enzyme, or all kinds of stuff that your body has to make on an ongoing basis. So the glucose molecule is that place that your body goes to find energy to do what it has to do. Now, when I was first studying physiology, back before I became a chiropractor, there's this thing about those of us who really liked energetic medicine thought, wow, the human being is electromagnetic. And the physiologists would say, no, it's biochemical. No, it's electromagnetic. No, it's biochemical. But the fact of the matter is, in the cell, when you break that glucose molecule, you're releasing electricity. And so the human being in its basic of all functions is electrical. And that appealed to me, and so that sort of gave me one of those great moments. I said, aha, I can study this, and off I went. So, back to blood sugar. Most of us get a little sloppy with our diets, right? I mean, when do we have sugar? Sugar represents love, it's apple pie, it's, I feel bad, I worked hard, I should have some sugar, no. Well, here's why sugar is a problem. Sugar, and in its processed form, white sugar or even honey sometimes, even agave nectar and all the wonderful forms of sweeteners, move your blood sugar up pretty sharply. When it moves your blood sugar up sharply, the body has to secrete a lot of insulin. And so with a lot of insulin, it takes and opens it over and shoves it into the cell really fast and closes it. And the result is, instead of having this wonderful curve of blood sugar up and down, your blood sugar spikes and then it drops. Now, when your blood sugar drops, the body gets a sense of desperation. And I use that word intentionally because we can't tell the difference between a physiological sensation and an emotion. And I know this for a fact, and I know this from talking to people and studying this for a long time. If your body gets a pain signal, you register it as pain. If your body gets a sense of physiological imbalance, it's a different program. Many of us have computers, and if I send you a file in a file format that your computer doesn't recognize, you get a dialog box. It said, hey, Dr. Lennox sent me a file. What am I supposed to do with this thing? And you make a decision. You say, okay, let's open it as a Word file. And so from then on, every time I send you that kind of file, your computer will open it as a Word file. So we get messages from our physiology that our blood sugar is not doing real well. And the messages come to our being. And we look at that and we say, this is not pain. This is not irritation. It's not an itch. It's not a taste. What is it? It's kind of a sensation, like a feeling. And your body goes, perfect. I've got a program that opens feelings called emotions. So oftentimes what will happen is that imbalances in physiology get opened as emotions. So there is a very specific set that happens when your blood sugar is out of balance. Now, when I say your blood sugar is out of balance, I'm not talking about a diabetic and I'm not talking about a classic hypoglycemic. Because if we did blood testing on you while we're having these fluctuations in blood sugar, I promise you your lab test would look perfect. I mean, how many of us have heard of people go for glucose tolerance tests where they fill you up with a candy syrup and then they check your blood every half hour, right? Most of us do very well in that environment, except that we feel horrible. And so there's this disparity of information between your lab test looks good, but you feel terrible. And so what we say is not that your blood sugar actually is horrible, it's that the amount of energy that your body has to put out to try to maintain that normalcy in the presence of that is like this, and that's not okay. And it costs you a lot of energy to do that. So, when your blood sugar falls and you're struggling with this wavering blood sugar, there's a really classic thing that happens. And, you know, I sort of affectionately say that it seems to put people on what I call planet suck. And it sounds kind of abrupt, but what will happen when you are suffering from blood sugar variations that you can't control so well is your perception of the world will change. And it will change fast, and you will not notice it. And I'll tell you an example in me. I love my work, as you might suspect. I love treating patients. I love physiology. I love this kind of work, and I plan to do it as long as I'm allowed to do it. There are some days I wake up in the morning and I say, wow, this is hard work. How am I possibly going to talk to people? Why don't people listen to me anymore? Why do they always come with the same kind of problems all the time? And I ask myself, why is today different than yesterday? And every time I find that event, I notice that I had some dessert the night before. The result is this. When you eat sugar and your body can't manage it well, you will notice the following kinds of things. One, you will notice that other people seem to be getting everything they need and you're not getting what you need. Other people seem to speak to you in languages that are sort of abrasive and sharp and seemingly critical, even though they deny it. The world seems like a not-so-friendly place if everybody else would sort of do their job, like if you're in an office environment. You get this sort of sense that if my boss and my coworkers and all these kind of circumstances were going better, I would be fine. It's not me, it's them. And really that's what happens. It shifts immediately to this lack of control over events and this oversensitivity to your environment. And it's a specific event that I can identify as I listen to people talk to me about their cases. And I know that there's some imbalance in that system. So I just want you to introduce you to the notion that there is such a thing as blood sugar affecting emotions, and I want you to know there's much more to be talked about that. But I wanted you to get the first piece. Thank you.